Peel the file off of that and put it in this little. Bienvenidos! Hello, I'm Shelley Carney and I'm here with Toby Younis. Today we're in Santa Fe for the annual Spanish Market. So Spanish Market takes place in the last weekend every July, and the reason we come here is not only because it is a Spanish Market, but because my children are in it. They have a booth, so we'll go by to visit them, and also
You gotta stop by the church because, you know,
you got parking.
Sunday.
we had to go into the church, so the lady let me in because I promised her I'd go to church, and
So
then
we gotta go to church.
and then charge me the $20 anyway. All right, you ready?
Let's go.
Let's go.
So it's an extremely
Hey everybody, this is Toby Younis and Shelley Carney. We're here today at the Spanish Market in Santa Fe, and I'm here with one of the traditional artists in the Spanish Market, and you probably guys already know that she's my daughter. But for the fans that don't know you, introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm his daughter, Sean Wells E. Delgado. I'm a fifth generation Spanish colonial artist. I come from a long line, as you know, of tinsmiths, but I have no gift for tin work, as you also know. So I do a traditional art form called retablo painting.
And tell us a little bit about retablo painting. What is it? Where does it come from?
Yeah, so can I start with the Spanish colonial arts?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the Spanish colonial arts are a body of art forms that derived from the Spanish colonists settling here in northern New Mexico, and they had rudimentary materials, limited access to things, and they were trying to recreate things from this Baroque and Renaissance Spain that they had left behind, but with mud and sticks and horsehair. And the result was this combination of unique crafts, like high-end crafts, utilitarian objects that are a mix of utility and beauty that are specific to this region. So one of those art forms is called retablo painting, and in that case they were trying to recapture the iconography of the churches that they'd left behind and mimicking some of the paper documents that had images of saints or stories from the Bible in them. At that time many people couldn't read, so retablos were a way of conveying the information in the Bible without having to read the information. So it was an important way to convey the stories of the Bible and the teachings of the Christian faith.
Hey everybody, this is Toby Younis back again. I'm Shelley's on the other side of the camera today, and I'm with another of the Spanish colonial artists, my son Jason. But I'm going to let him introduce himself since many of you don't know him. Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Younis E. Delgado. I'm a fifth generation tinsmith in the Delgado family tradition, and I'm here today on basically one of the most special days for our year, where we get to show our traditional arts at the Santa Fe Spanish Market.
So I got to watch Jason grow up alongside my mother, learning from her, and I think it's such a wonderful story. I'd like him to tell that story.
Well, it started with me as a toddler, maybe 5-6 years old, and we'd come over for a family barbecue or something, and my grandmother would be working in her shop, and she had a very large bench, and I would plot myself at that bench and just watch everything that she did, just wrapped. And it took until I was about 13 years old to get the courage to go to her and just say, like, look, I know we're known for this in our family's work, and how does one become a tinsmith? And she said, well, through apprenticeship. But she had a caveat. She said, I must tell you that there's going to be a few things that need to happen in order for us to have a successful apprenticeship. The first thing is, when we step into this shop, I am your maestra and you are my student. I'm not your grandmother, you're not my grandson. The second thing is, unlike hobbies you might pick up with your friends, if you start this tradition, you're going to see it through and you're going to finish this. And I thought, what have I got myself into?
Water, and I had convinced myself it's on that island in the middle of the river.
And so you sent your son?
Yes.
He was
Go bitch.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'll split it with you.
I was
said-
game. Yes.
So the table painting is one of the 16 forms of Spanish colonial art, and that is specifically done on a wood board with a handmade gesso, which is a white powder substance mixed with a natural glue that is basically like the fresco recipe, so it gives me a nice base to paint on. And then I use natural pigments and watercolors to create images of the saint or stories from the Bible.
You know.
Well, it was good. It must have stuck in some way because, you went on to high school, graduated from St. Mike's, went on to college, went on to A&P school, and none of that time did I ever envision that you were going to become a tinsmith. I thought you were going to go on to a life of mechanical engineering, right?
Right.
What happened? What was the transition that caused you to come back to tin work?
So one of the beautiful things about it is that I never had to leave it. I could always do a few pieces, return for market, and still be in the tradition. And I leave a lot of that in the hands of, one, my passion for it, but two, her ability as a teacher, as an instructor. She really put the roots of those skills and traditions, and more importantly, the cultural background. Why were we doing these things? Why did we choose these patterns, these shapes? What was important about that? And so I always called it a successful hobby. So for years and years, while I was pursuing my professional career, I was constantly keeping it alive enough to be able to come to market, show, and represent the family,
And how many years now have you been coming to market? Do you remember?
Well, I was in youth market since I was 12, and then I juried in as an adult at 18. There were a few years in there, probably in my mid to late 20s, that I did miss shows, but other than that, I've been there since.
So at least 30 years altogether, you think?
I'm 50 now, so yeah.
No, you're not 50. Because if you're 50, I'm older than hell. So I like telling people you're around 30. It did.
I'm going here, I'm going there. Guess what I saw? I mean, hours of theory. And I was riveted. I mean, most of his stuff is like, yeah, I use the G9 torque wrench, and I just glaze over. But this was like, yeah, so there's aliens and there's sunshine and
I haven't
gems
heard the aliens
and
part.
I'm exaggerating,
it was
I
a
think there's some
thought. It was a
there was a
thought.
lot of. It was a
But I did have. I
Is
have
the
one.
Indiana Jones connection
It was
with aliens?
Indiana Jones. It was
I
Indiana
had-
Dad.
What do you mean when you say you use natural pigments? What does that mean exactly?
I've got some samples of some natural pigments here. What's beautiful is that I'm actually painting from the colors of New Mexico, like literally the earth of New Mexico. I use a lot of muds and clays that I found in the region. This is all iron oxide. It comes in a red and a yellow. That's the rust from metal. And it's funny to tell you this because I know he knows all of this, but this is cochineal. It is an insect, and when it's crushed, it makes actually this beautiful bright magenta pink. And this is lapis, which a lot of ladies wear in their jewelry. This, I know you like the science behind this. This is an 8 on the Mohs scale of hardness, so it's just below diamond. So this is about $50 in lapis, and it took me about 3 hours to pulverize it enough to be somewhat in the range of a pigment. And then if you look closely at it, it's got a lot of white streaks in it. It's not a pure blue, like it's close to the color of his shirt. So that is calcium, and I've got to use an acid to burn the calcium out to leave the bright blue behind. There's some other aspects to that process to get a true Franciscan lapis blue. And what that taught me is, one, I'm not going to make my own lapis pigment. I purchase it. It's quite expensive, but it's much easier. I'd rather spend my time painting than making pigment. The second thing is that when you buy a watercolor palette, at the store, all the colors are equal. It doesn't matter if you use yellow or blue or red. But for a Spanish colonial artist, there'd be some colors that were exceptionally valuable, like the lapis, which is represented by an ultramarine blue, indigo, cochineal. There were some that would be hard to process and hard to access, unlike things like mud, which, as you know, we can get by the scoopful, put in a jar, drive away, and we have our...
We did that. We went to Santa Fe. We saw the Spanish market. We visited with Sean and Jason. We saw all the artists. We saw the food and the music and the mariachis. It was a very Spanish day, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. It brings out the Spanish traditions in Santa Fe, not only because of the art, but because of the music, the food, everything. It's really is a traditional Spanish day. It was fun because not only do I get to see the kids, but I get to see a lot of the artists who were friends of my mother, and in one case, friends of my grandfather, because that's how long our family has been participating in the Spanish Colonial Art Society and the Spanish market. And we, of course, had a special surprise when we got a visit from...
Shiloh fan. Old.
Shiloh Old, yeah, he was there today. Okay, the bell's calling me. I got to go back to church. But we had a great day. We had a lot of fun. We're headed back to Santa Fe. We'll start editing this so you guys can see it on Wednesday. Hope you had as much fun watching it as we had making it. Hasta la vista.